Rays of violet sunlight spilled across the crystal peaks of Solana Prime, illuminating spires of translucent quartz that towered into the atmosphere like proud sentinels. This was a world on the very edge of charted galactic territory, renowned for its unearthly beauty, and equally famed for its protective, secretive inhabitants, the insectoid Zelari. For centuries, the Zelari had been the subject of rumor and speculation across human space, portrayed as a species of fragile, reclusive beings, as likely to shun outsiders as to communicate in uneasy alliances. Yet here, at the foot of the highest crystalline summit, Commander Noah Hayes arrived on a diplomatic mission entrusted to him by the Terran Federation. Noah was a tall, composed figure, his blue eyes reflecting the shimmering radiance of Solana Prime's sunlight, while his pale skin bore faint scars from previous campaigns. Experience had hardened him, shaped him into a negotiator who knew how to walk the line between caution and curiosity. He disembarked from his sleek, silver shuttle, accompanied by two uniformed aides. The wind whispered across the crystals, making soft, melodic sounds, as if the world itself were gently humming a welcome or a warning. In the distance, silhouettes of Zelari soared, their chitinous wings, translucent like dragonfly membranes, refracted light into 1,000 shimmering colors. Their bodies, slender and covered in segments of iridescent armor, had a regal bearing that belied their seeming fragility. Noah spotted the largest among them, wearing a shimmering breastplate etched with arcane symbols. She was Queen Kirana, Empress of the Zelari. Her name had stirred caution throughout the Terran Federation, for she had a reputation of polite, unyielding suspicion toward all humans. From her vantage, she exuded a dignified presence, a testament to her species' proud heritage. A hush descended among the few observers. Queen Kirana's retinue landed around her with impeccable grace, forming a loose half-circle of Zelari warriors. Their compound eyes glowed with a low, intelligent luminescence, and their limbs, spindly yet strong, moved with swift precision. Noah walked forward, every step echoing off the crystalline ground. He inclined his head. It was a small, carefully chosen gesture of respect, neither a full bow unthinkable for a Federation commander, nor a dismissive nod. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "I am Commander Noah Hayes of the Terran Federation, here at the invitation of your court to establish lines of mutual benefit." His voice reverberated between the tall crystal spires, sounding deeper, almost ethereal, in the crisp air. The Queen's mandibles clicked softly, a signal for her translator. A small orb that hovered near her head. A gentle hum preceded her response. "You have come, as many of your kind have, to speak words of friendship," she said, her tone measured, carrying the slightest hint of doubt. "Yet the Zelari have survived by trusting our senses. While you speak of friendship, we remain watchful. Still, we will hear your words. We are not ungracious hosts." Noah nodded, a patient smile on his lips, well aware of the centuries of suspicion that had grown between their civilizations. The Federation had not always been cautious in the expansion of its territories, and the Zelari, secretive as they were, had learned to keep their distance. Yet, the time had come for alliances, for bridging differences in the face of new, unknown threats. Noah could sense a tension that went beyond mere diplomatic caution. He detected an undercurrent in Kirana's posture, as if she were on guard against something deeper, possibly even more dangerous than the Federation itself. From the vantage of a distant peak, a faint glimmer caught his eye. He dismissed it as the sparkle of Solana Prime's crystals. Yet a chill coursed through him. The mission demanded caution. Political tension was expected, of course, but the sense that some hidden danger lurked in the shadows was no mere diplomatic anxiety. Something else was at play here, something that threatened to unravel any possibility of peace if it were not swiftly uncovered. With the formalities concluded, Queen Kirana spread her wings, shimmering in the violet sunlight, and beckoned him to walk alongside her, deeper into the crystalline labyrinth of her domain. The environment sparkled with mesmerizing intensity, Yet the exquisite beauty of Solana Prime held an edge of foreboding, as though the planet itself demanded respect and wariness in equal measure. Noah Hayes stepped forward, following the Queen and her retinue, prepared for the unknown. Commas and periods punctuated his thoughts, guiding the flow of logic and breath in that strange realm, ensuring every word he uttered would be carefully measured, every gesture precisely placed. The negotiations had begun, and the fate of two civilizations, so distant and yet so intimately bound, teetered on the blade of diplomacy. The Zelari's main seat of power lay in a grand hall carved out of the largest crystal spire on Solana Prime. Once inside, Noah found himself in a corridor lined with columns of glittering quartz, each etched with alien script chronicling the triumphs and tragedies of Zelari history. Soft beams of luminescent energy wove through the crystal walls, casting shifting prismatic patterns on the translucent floors. The architecture was at once breathtaking and subtly intimidating, for every angle seemed calculated to reflect both the planet's brilliance and the might of the Zelari realm. Queen Kirana led him and his aides through high arched gates, guarded by sentinels armed with slender, pole-like weapons. She paused at the threshold of a circular chamber, signifying that the formal portion of the negotiations would take place here. Under the watchful eyes of her counselors and generals, the Queen settled herself on an elevated dais, her wings folded elegantly against her back. A hush fell over the assembly. Noah surveyed the gathered Zelari, noticing the intricate markings on their carapaces that signified rank and lineage. Each Zelari, whether a stoic warrior or a learned scholar, bore that same watchful glare. Their luminous eyes, set in faceted orbs, regarded the human delegation with skepticism. The tension was palpable. "I bring greetings from the Terran Council, who extend the hand of cooperation," Noah began. His voice resounded gently through the acoustically perfect chamber. "We come not to intrude, but to learn, to share, and to ensure that if danger arises on our frontiers, we face it together. Our shared interest in peace," Kirana's voice, processed through her translator orb, interrupted. "Peace is easy to declare, Commander Hayes, but difficult to maintain. The Zelari have reasons to be wary, for we do not easily forget the expansions of other species, nor the empty promises that accompanied them. Before we speak of alliances, let us see if there is true respect in your hearts." Noah inclined his head, determined to remain calm. "I understand your apprehension, Your Majesty. We have records of past misunderstandings between our people. Yet times have changed. Threats in the outer sectors grow, and we must not stand alone in the face of them. The Terran Federation sincerely wishes to earn your trust, step by step, through tangible acts of good faith." As his words echoed, the Zelari counselors clicked their mandibles, exchanging murmured communications. Queen Kirana studied Noah, her eyes reflecting suspicion tempered by a glimmer of curiosity. In a measured tone, she said, "Very well, we shall consider your offer, but you must know that trust is not built overnight. For the Zelari, harmony arises only when hearts align, not merely words." Relief mingled with caution in Noah's mind. They had not turned him away outright, which was the first glimmer of hope. Yet even in that moment of tentative acceptance, he caught sight of a subtle shift in the Queen's posture. Her antennae quivered with a hint of anxiety, and her gaze flickered to the high windows of the chamber. A distant hum, just barely audible, caused her to pause. She said nothing of it, and neither did Noah. But the intangible hush that followed lingered like a specter. Before the negotiations could deepen, a sudden crash reverberated through the crystalline corridor outside. Zelari guards stiffened, brandishing their pole weapons. A swirl of color flickered in the hallway, accompanied by frantic clicking. Noah's aides exchanged tense glances. Another crash echoed, and for a moment, a grim hush overtook the room. Kirana spoke, her translator orb sputtering with agitation. "See to it at once. We will have order in this domain." Several guards rushed out, leaving the Queen and the Terran envoy behind in a state of heightened alert. Noah's heart thumped in his chest. for he sensed the negotiations might have been overshadowed by an unknown threat lurking just beyond these gleaming walls. To dispel the tension, or perhaps to reassert her authority in front of her own court, Kirana turned back to Noah. "Commander, we offer you a place to rest while we address this disturbance. My attendants will show you to your quarters." Her tone was even, though an uneasy tremor underlined her words, as if she half expected to hear more crashes, more signs of trouble in the corridors. Noah nodded, grateful for the courtesy, yet unsettled by the sudden outburst of chaos in what was supposed to be a controlled, ceremonial environment. He bowed slightly, then followed two Zelari attendants, who guided him through a labyrinth of corridors, each sparkling with prismatic lights. All the while, his intuition told him that the origins of those crashes were no mere accident, and that, perhaps, something far more dangerous, something meticulously orchestrated, was beginning to unfold. An hour later, Noah found himself in a surprisingly luxurious set of guest chambers deep within the crystal spire. The architecture retained the otherworldly beauty he had come to expect, transparent walls that offered a mesmerizing view of the planet's crystalline vistas, corridors humming with an alien resonance, and delicate furniture fashioned from polished minerals that seemed to pulse with ambient energy. He had barely settled in when a soft chime indicated a visitor. His aide, Lieutenant Mara Lee, stepped into the room. Her dark hair was clipped back, and she carried a small datapad clasped to her chest. Her eyes shone with cautious concern. "Commander, the corridors are abuzz with rumors. The Zelari guards are in a heightened state of alert. It appears there was an unauthorized infiltration in one of the spire's lower chambers," she said. Her voice hushed. Noah frowned, motioning for her to continue. Mara paused, drawing a measured breath before she spoke. "Some of the guards think it might be a faction opposed to these negotiations. Maybe extremist Zelari who resent any alliance with humans. Others whisper of an outside threat, something that aims to cast blame on humans and trigger hostility. We don't have confirmation, but the tension is growing." Noah pressed his lips together in a grim line. "Keep your ear to the ground. If there's a plot to derail these talks, we need to uncover it before it escalates." He placed a hand on Mara's shoulder in a gesture of encouragement. "Maintain vigilance, but do not provoke suspicion. We're guests here, after all." After Mara left, the silence weighed on him. He walked to the transparent wall, gazing out at the brilliant crystals that extended across the horizon. Some soared into the sky like cathedrals, while others lay shattered, forming shimmering ravines below. Watching the interplay of light, Noah felt a sense of awe for the world he was trying to befriend. Yet, at the same time, a pang of worry for how fragile these negotiations were. No matter how delicate the craft of diplomacy, a single violent incident could shatter the possibility of peace, especially on a planet so intricately linked to every beam of illumination and resonance of sound. Soon, another chime echoed. Expecting an aide, Noah turned, only to find Queen Kirana herself, her wings folded neatly, standing in the threshold. Flanked by two silent guards, the translator orb hovered beside her, flickering with subdued luminescence. "Commander Hayes, may I speak with you privately?" The request took him by surprise, for it was not customary for the Zelari queen to seek out a visiting diplomat in such a manner. He straightened. "Of course, Your Majesty. Please, come in." He offered a respectful nod to her guards, who remained at the door. Kirana glided into the room, her regal movements evoking the precision of a dancer. Once inside, she stopped near a glowing column, letting her compound eyes survey the chamber before turning her full attention to Noah. "We have reason to suspect that the disturbance earlier today was not the work of my people," she began, her voice resonating through the translator orb. "In fact, we found a piece of technology that does not originate from Solana Prime, nor from Earth, at least not from any known Federation design." Noah felt a sudden chill, a creeping awareness that an unknown third party might be meddling. "That's troubling, Your Majesty. Did your investigators identify its source? Another empire, perhaps, or pirates seeking to profit from our discord? Kirana let out a low, musical hum that conveyed discomfort. We do not know yet. But the device's energy signature is unlike any we have encountered. We suspect it may have been placed to monitor or sabotage our proceedings. Her slender mandibles clicked softly, betraying her apprehension. If that is so, then perhaps there is merit to our forging a closer bond, if only to ward off mutual enemies. Yet such trust does not come easily for me, Commander. I have seen how quickly alliances can unravel when threats loom. Noah stepped forward, his voice calm, weighted with sincerity. Your Majesty, you have my word that the Federation seeks no covert advantage on Solana Prime. This infiltration troubles us as much as it does you. Perhaps we can pool our investigative resources. A long pause followed, punctuated by the faint hum of the translator orb. Finally, Kirana relented. I will allow your scientific team to examine the device we found, under strict supervision. If we can discover its origin, perhaps we can prevent further disruptions. The Queen's wings glimmered with a subtle change of color, a sign of rising tension or excitement. But know this, if I find any deception on your part, I will not hesitate to break these talks. For the Zelari, a bond once broken is nearly impossible to mend. Noah held her gaze. Understood, Your Majesty. He allowed a moment of silence to pass, then added, I am grateful for the chance to prove our good intentions. Kirana offered a curt nod and turned to leave. At the threshold, she paused, as if a sudden thought had crossed her mind. Commander Hayes, if you truly mean what you say, then Solana Prime itself will sense your sincerity. This planet resonates with our hearts. Do not forget that. With those cryptic words, she swept out into the corridor, leaving Noah with a head swirling with questions about the infiltration and the unseen hands possibly maneuvering to pit humans and Zelari against each other. Somewhere beyond the Crystal Spire's walls, storms of alien energy or cunning infiltration teams might be plotting. The path forward seemed perilous, with each step overshadowed by suspicion. Yet in that precarious moment, Noah felt a stirring of determination. Through adversity, an unlikely bond might be forged, a bond that could transform these two wary civilizations forever. Over the next few days, the diplomatic talks continued, interspersed with intervals of heightened alert. Each time progress seemed within grasp, a rumor of sabotage or infiltration surfaced, forcing both sides to double-check their security. Yet no one openly claimed responsibility, and no direct evidence pointed to the Federation or the Zelari. Under a guarded escort, Noah and a small contingent of his scientists visited the lower chambers of the spire where the mysterious device had been found. They proceeded down a spiraling ramp carved from the living crystal, which pulsed faintly in the planet's natural rhythms. The Zelari had formed a perimeter around a compartment that housed fragments of alien machinery. The remains of the device lay scattered across the crystalline floor, partially disassembled by the Zelari investigators. The Federation scientists, led by a soft-spoken engineer named Dr. Adrienne Pierce, scanned the equipment with portable analyzers. Her dark eyes gleamed with curiosity and concern. Commander, the technology here is advanced, more advanced than standard Federation or Zelari designs. The power cells use an exotic particle resonance that I've only seen hinted at in theoretical papers. Beside her, a Zelari scientist clicked its mandibles pensively. Through a translator, it said, We tested the shards. The energy signature is erratic, suggesting an attempt to cloak its origins. Perhaps whoever planted it wanted to remain completely anonymous, or they wanted us to suspect each other. A note of sorrow wove through its voice. Why target our negotiations? Who benefits from war between your people and mine? Noah frowned, running a hand across his chin. That's exactly the question we need to answer. The Zelari never sought wide expansion, and the Federation had no immediate intentions to encroach on Solana Prime. Yet there must be some power that fears an alliance between our species. He paused, a flicker of realization setting in. Or else they see an opportunity to trigger conflict and chaos in this region of space. The Zelari scientist bowed its head. We will continue to analyze. Perhaps more clues can be found in the device's intricate architecture. The tension in the chamber was palpable. Each scientist, whether human or Zelari, moved with utmost care, as though every misstep risked destroying a crucial piece of evidence. The guardians at the perimeter, armed with those slender pole weapons, remained motionless but vigilant, their compound eyes scanning every flicker of light for signs of intruders. As the Federation team packed up their instruments, Noah looked to the Zelari. We appreciate your cooperation. We'll compile our findings and share them with your investigators. If we find anything that reveals a common enemy, we'll act on it immediately. A hesitant nod was all they offered in reply, revealing the lingering doubts that colored every exchange. Nonetheless, the small step of collaboration here in the spire's lower chambers had planted a seed of cautious hope. Perhaps, if they could unravel the puzzle of this infiltration, they could present tangible evidence of an outside threat to the skeptics within both species, bridging old suspicions and forging something new. Later that evening, as Noah returned to his quarters, he felt the weight of the mission intensify. Negotiations with Kirana's court had been civil but strained. The sabotage attempts had stirred old xenophobic flames, making each new day a struggle to maintain the spirit of cooperation. Despite that, he clung to the notion that shared knowledge and open communication would guide them out of this labyrinth of fear and deception. Yet somewhere in the labyrinthine depths of Solana Prime's crystalline spires, the seeds of further treachery were already being sown. Unmarked shadows slipped silently through corridors, unseen by both Zelari and human watchmen, setting into motion a dark plan to stoke the embers of distrust until they roared into an all-consuming fire. On the 5th day of negotiations, Queen Kirana decreed that a ceremonial event be held on a wide crystalline plateau, high above the lesser spires. If alliances were to be forged, the Zelari believed, then glimpsing the grandeur of Solana Prime might inspire the humility and cooperation necessary to bridge differences. Noah and his aides, along with a select group of Zelari dignitaries, ascended by way of a majestic crystal lift that soared between the spires, propelled by harnessed planetary energies. At last, they reached the plateau, a vast field of smooth quartz that reflected the sky like a mirror. Streams of prismatic light danced around them, created by the synergy of Solana Prime's sun and the plateau's unique crystal formations. In the distance, ribbons of violet sky stretched into pale golds, an interplay of color seldom seen on Earth. Standing at the center, Queen Kirana welcomed them with a gracious tilt of her head. She wore ceremonial regalia, a series of translucent plates that shimmered in gradient hues, while her wings caught the sunlight and scattered it in dazzling rainbows across the plateau. Behind her stood a row of Zelari courtiers, each clad in subtle variations of the ceremonial attire, their insectoid features giving them an almost mystical air. Noah and his aides stepped forward. Despite the tension, he could not deny the breathtaking splendor of the setting. If the queen intended to awe the human delegation, she had succeeded. The plateau seemed like a stage set for forging alliances of grand importance. Kirana's voice resonated through her translator orb. Commander Hayes, Terran representatives, you stand on the highest vantage of Solana Prime. Here, for countless generations, the Zelari have come to reaffirm our devotion to the harmony between our planet and our people. Today, I invite you to witness this place, so that you may understand who we are at our core. Noah placed a hand over his heart, a gesture of reverence. Your Majesty, my companions and I are honored by your trust in bringing us here. Your world is a marvel, unlike any I've seen. A faint, almost imperceptible smile graced Kirana's mandibles. Few off-worlders have set foot here. Consider this an act of faith, in hopes that we may find a shared future, rather than a shared enmity. A hush followed, broken only by the soft whistle of wind across the plateau. Then, in a sudden shift, Queen Kirana turned to face the horizon, raising her slender arms. At once, the Zelari courtiers spread their wings, creating a symphony of shimmering colors as they slowly beat the air. A melodic hum filled the space, resonating with the crystals underfoot. The entire plateau glowed with a resplendent aura, a resonance that swept through the bodies of humans and Zelari alike, binding them in a moment of profound, shared wonder. A fleeting sense of unity flickered in that moment. Noah felt his heart stir, the troubles of sabotage and hidden enemies momentarily fading. His gaze drifted over to Kirana's regal form, and for the first time, he glimpsed a potential friendship behind her wary eyes. Perhaps, if fate had been kinder, their negotiations might have proceeded smoothly from there, culminating in an alliance that spanned the stars. But fate had darker designs in store. The ceremony was still in progress when an explosion of harsh light and sound tore across the plateau. The majestic hum of harmony was fractured, replaced by startled cries. A jarring pulse knocked Noah and many others to the ground, while Zelari dignitaries stumbled, their wings thrashing in surprise. In the confusion, shadows zipped through the air. Noah squinted, trying to make sense of the assault. It seemed that a half-dozen unidentified drones, each shaped like a slender blade with thrusters affixed, streaked across the sky. They emitted high-pitched whines, releasing bursts of concentrated energy aimed at the Zelari gathering. Guards scrambled, brandishing their pole weapons and launching return fire, arcs of phosphorescent energy slicing the air. Kirana's eyes widened in alarm. She shouted a command in her own language, the translator struggling to keep up. "Defend the plateau. Protect our guests." Her retinue formed a defensive ring, their weapons humming ominously. Amid the chaos, a pair of the drones angled directly toward Kirana, beams of searing light erupting from their tips. Acting on reflex, Noah lunged forward, intercepting the path of the blasts. The force of the energy slammed him to the ground, scorching his uniform and sending waves of pain through his body. A chorus of Zelari shouts rose around them as the Queen's personal guards shot down the offending drones, sending them crashing onto the glimmering quartz. Smoke and shattered circuitry scattered across the surface. The remaining drones attempted to flee, but a barrage of retaliatory fire from Zelari warriors brought them down, their remains spiraling in a hail of sparks. Silence enveloped the plateau, broken only by the hiss of the smoking drones. Noah, groaning, pushed himself upright. Catching his breath, Kirana stood before him, unscathed but visibly shaken. Her luminous eyes fell on him, her mandibles parting in what might have been an expression of shock or gratitude. "You protected me," she said softly. The translator's voice, tinged with awe, seemed like the right thing to do. Noah managed, clutching his arm, which throbbed with pain. He glanced at the wreckage. "Those things, I'm guessing they aren't Zelari tech." Kirana shook her head. "Nor Terran, I assume. You risked your life, Commander, though you suspect we might still be your enemies." Noah met her gaze, his voice ragged. "Enemies don't change their minds overnight, but that doesn't mean we can't start building trust." He inhaled sharply, fighting the pain. "We have to figure out who sent these drones, and why." The Queen's wings twitched, a gesture of indignation. Indeed, this attack was meant to sow fear, to drive a wedge between us, but they miscalculated. She turned, her voice gathering strength. "We shall discover these instigators, and they shall regret their provocation." In that moment, the first step toward genuine camaraderie seemed to crystallize between them. Though the danger loomed all around, though sabotage threatened their every move, a shared realization dawned upon them. Only by standing together against the mysterious foe could they preserve their planets, their peoples, and the fragile hope of peace. News of the assassination attempt spread rapidly through Zelari networks, stirring outrage and renewed suspicion in equal measure. In the Great Hall, Zelari generals clamored for immediate reprisal, suspecting that the Federation had orchestrated a false flag operation. Simultaneously, some human diplomats aboard the orbiting Terran ship fretted that the Zelari themselves were staging these attacks to blame outsiders. The climate was one of growing paranoia, exactly what an unseen manipulator would desire. Queen Kirana's stance, however, had shifted dramatically after Noah's selfless act. She spoke to her generals with a new urgency, insisting that no official blame be cast until all evidence had been examined. The Queen's personal guard reported that the drones bore no Zelari markings, no Terran insignia, and that the energy pulses they fired were highly advanced, yet didn't align with known Federation weaponry. Kirana herself had begun to suspect that an unknown faction sought to tip the precarious balance of trust toward outright war. In the midst of these tensions, a clandestine meeting was arranged between Kirana and Noah in a secluded crystal chamber. Far from prying eyes and ears, the chamber was small, lit by faint bioluminescent crystals that radiated a soothing violet glow. Kirana arrived first, flanked by a single guard who remained outside the sealed entrance. Noah arrived moments later, careful not to be followed. A hush enveloped them both, broken only by the quiet resonance of the spire. Kirana's compound eyes locked onto Noah's. "I have decided to believe you, Commander Hayes, in part because you placed yourself in harm's way to protect me." Her mandibles clicked gently, the translator rendering her words with subdued warmth. "You could have let me fall victim to the drones, removing a key obstacle to any colonial ambitions Earth might harbor, but you did not." Noah nodded, pressing a hand against the bandage, covering the burn on his side. "I appreciate your willingness to see the truth. We both have too much at stake to let these provocations succeed. With your leave, I'd like to coordinate with our orbiting Terran ship to analyze the drone's remains. Perhaps we'll uncover a lead on who created them." Kirana shifted her wings in a sign of contemplation. "Very well, but I must do the same with my own scientists, so that our conclusions may be shared and verified. The Zelari cannot act blindly in the face of outside threats." For a moment, the translator orb went silent. As Kirana bowed her head, she appeared to wrestle with conflicting thoughts. Finally, she spoke. "Commander, there is a matter I have long kept close, an old tale my people share about a hidden enemy, one that has plagued us throughout our history, always striking from the shadows. We believed it only myth, but in times of crisis, rumors reemerge. They are called the Silencers. Some say they roam the edges of known space, fueling wars from behind the scenes, profiting from chaos. The records are vague, fragmentary, but speak of advanced technology that surpasses many known powers." Noah exhaled slowly. The name Silencers sounded ominous enough to fit the evidence. If these Silencers are more than a myth, we may be dealing with a species or organization that thrives on conflict, stirring hostilities for their own ends. The Federation has rumors of such groups as well, though no definitive proof, mostly conspiratorial stories about hidden puppet masters. But perhaps there's more truth to these stories than we realized. A trembling conviction resonated in Kirana's voice. "We cannot allow them to succeed. If the Zelari and Terrans engage in all-out war, both of our civilizations will be weakened, leaving us ripe for conquest or subjugation. This is precisely why I agreed to this alliance, at least for now, until we unmask our real enemy." Though the bond between them was still tentative, Kirana raised her slender arm, and Noah clasped it gently in a gesture of interspecies solidarity. "We stand together," he said. "Let this be the beginning of trust." At that moment, the tension that had shadowed their previous encounters eased, replaced by a cautious, blossoming accord. They had taken a gamble, stepping over the thresholds of centuries-old skepticism, forging a partnership on the basis of a shared desire for peace. Outside the chamber, distant footsteps echoed along the corridor, reminding them that time was of the essence. Before departing, Kirana paused, fixing Noah with a solemn gaze. "Commander Hayes, the first see now that you are not the monster my people feared. Let us hope that your Federation can say the same of the Zelari. Only then can we defeat the menace lurking in the darkness." Noah gave a resolute nod, his own hope beginning to override his apprehension. "We will prove ourselves worthy of your trust, your majesty. Together, we'll cast light on these Silencers, or whoever they truly are, and protect both our worlds from the fire they seek to ignite." With that, the queen swept out of the chamber, her footsteps echoing against the crystalline walls like the faint tolling of a bell. The path ahead was perilous, overshadowed by unknown enemies and festering distrust. But for the first time, the seeds of a genuine alliance had been planted, watered by mutual resolve. Whether those seeds would flourish or wither would depend on their next moves in the unfolding game of cosmic intrigue. Within days, the Terran Federation vessel in orbit, the Athena's Vigil, deployed specialized drones of its own scientific ones, intended to sweep Solana Prime's immediate space for signs of cloaked vessels or lingering anomalies. Meanwhile, Zelari scouts, small and nimble, fanned out across the planet's spires and subterranean caverns, seeking any sign of infiltration. Collaboration grew steadily, as scientists from both sides shared data in real time, shining new light on advanced resonance patterns that might indicate stealth craft or hidden bases. Commander Noah Hayes spent many hours shuttling between the planet's surface and the Athena's Vigil, coordinating the joint investigative effort. Each trip felt fraught with tension, for the infiltration threat remained high. The sabotage attempts had lessened but not vanished every so often. Equipment malfunctioned in suspicious ways, or a guard vanished for hours without explanation, only to be discovered with no memory of what had transpired. Meanwhile, Queen Kirana, burdened by the unrest among her own people, strove to maintain order. She addressed the Zelari assemblies, advocating measured action over reflexive aggression. Some courtiers, suspicious of humans from the start, grumbled that the queen had been bewitched by Terran cunning. Yet her authority, and the trust she placed in Noah's intentions, held firm, bolstered by the knowledge that he had personally shielded her from harm. One evening, as a golden twilight washed over Solana Prime, Noah and his chief tactical officer, Lieutenant Valko, stood on a balcony in the spire's upper levels, far below. The city glimmered with the bioluminescent glow of Zelari dwellings. One by one, luminous crystals lit the thoroughfares, forming a network of faintly pulsing lights that extended to the horizon. Valko, a grizzled veteran who had fought in multiple border skirmishes, frowned. "Commander, we've picked up strange signals near the system's outer ring. The Athena's Vigil says they might be ghost echoes, but they could also be the trace of cloaked craft." Noah's gaze remained on the horizon. Coordinates: a region about 10 million kilometers from Solana Prime, near an asteroid cluster. The signals appear in bursts, then vanish. Valko's scarred brow furrowed. They might be testing our detection capabilities, trying to see how close they can slip in. A swirl of thoughts roiled in Noah's mind. If these signals belonged to the so-called silencers, or another unknown faction, time was running short. Sooner or later, the unseen enemy would escalate, perhaps launching a larger assault. "We need to confirm whether it's real. Let's coordinate with Kirana's forces for a joint scouting operation." Valko raised an eyebrow. "Request her to send a Zelari scouting wing, alongside one of our corvettes." "Yes," Noah said. "We demonstrate trust by working together, and if we find something out there, we stand a better chance at capturing it intact with combined resources." The lieutenant nodded, turning his gaze to the brilliant tapestry of lights below. "Commander, I hope you're right about this alliance. We're putting a lot on the line, trusting the Zelari to have our back." A short laugh escaped Noah's lips, tinged with weary resolve. "Maybe we're both putting a lot on the line, but we have no choice. We either stand together or fall alone." That night, messages were exchanged at the highest levels. Queen Kirana approved a joint reconnaissance. By dawn, a sleek Terran corvette, the Starfinder, departed orbit, escorted by a squadron of Zelari flyers. Their destination, the region of anomalous signals, beyond Solana Prime's gravitational well. The hours dragged on as the corvette's sensors combed the emptiness of space, searching for signs of cloaked crafts or hidden outposts. The Zelari flyers, swift and agile, darted between asteroids, scanning for unknown energy signatures. For a time, the radio chatter crackled with hopeful excitement, then silence descended. No contact, no bursts of foreign signals, nothing beyond the cosmic hum of solar winds. The small fleet eventually returned empty-handed. Despite the frustration, Noah knew they had made progress in a different sense. The mission itself was a demonstration of collaboration, a tangible sign that two once wary species could work side by side to protect themselves from a lurking threat. Morale, however, remained precarious. The Zelari warriors, proud and cautious, questioned whether the mission was truly about forging alliances or merely an excuse for Terrans to probe Zelari vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, some human officers feared the Zelari might be staging elaborate diversions to lull them into complacency. In that churn of suspicion and tenuous cooperation, the stage was set for the next move of the hidden puppeteer, unknown to both the Terran Federation and the Zelari. A swift, silent fleet was already slipping into the outer fringes of Solana Prime's system, carrying within its holds the means to unleash chaos on an unimaginable scale. The tension was a coiled spring, and soon the entire region would feel the violent snap of destiny. The next incident came with devastating speed and precision, late at night. When Solana Prime's twin moons hovered over the horizon, Noah was in a council meeting with Kirana and several high-ranking officials, discussing the inconclusive results of the joint reconnaissance, when an urgent transmission crackled through the spire's communication network. Zelari watchers stationed on the outer crystal spires reported a fast-approaching wave of unknown ships, emerging from behind the planet's curve. The watchers' transmissions were cut short by static, replaced by frantic screams. Within minutes, the lights in the council chamber dimmed, and the entire spire trembled, as if struck by an invisible force. Kirana leaped to her feet, her wings flaring with alarm, while Noah's aides scrambled to retrieve real-time data on the situation. A thunderous boom reverberated outside, accompanied by brilliant flashes of light that illuminated the night sky. From a nearby balcony, the council members watched with horror as dark silhouettes cut across the stars, descending upon Solana Prime's surface like metallic predators. Violet beams of energy lanced downward, shattering crystal spires in a cascade of sparkling debris. The aerial defense emplacements tried to respond, but were quickly overwhelmed by the ruthless precision of the attackers' weaponry. Noah snatched a handheld communicator. Athena's vigil. "Come in! We have an enemy assault on Solana Prime. Identify them!" Static crackled. Then the voice of the ship's captain. "Commander, we're trying to get a visual lock, but these vessels they're phasing in and out of sensor range. We can't get a clean read on them. We're launching fighters now." Kirana turned to her generals, hissing commands in the Zelari language. Through the translator orb, Noah caught fragments. "Deploy the aerial guard. Defend the spire!" Zelari warriors rushed off in coordinated swarms, their wings buzzing with urgency. The next moment, the city's anti-air defenses lit up, bright plumes of energy crossing the night sky. "Commander," Kirana said, her voice trembling with contained fury, "we must evacuate the council to a protected chamber. The spire could be a primary target." Noah nodded, adrenaline surging through his veins. "Agreed. Let's move," he gestured to his aides, who followed behind Kirana's retinue as they navigated twisting corridors, descending deeper into the spire's core. The sound of distant explosions rumbled overhead. Every so often, a tremor would jar the entire complex, sending shards of crystal raining down. Amid the chaos, Dr. Adrian Pierce, the Terran engineer, rushed to Noah's side. "Commander, communications are spotty, but from what I can tell, the attacking ships bear some resemblance to the drones we analyzed, though on a far larger scale. The same exotic power readings, which means," Noah said, breathing heavily, "this has to be the same faction behind the sabotage attempts, possibly the Silencers." He grimaced, cursing the illusions of peace. "No time to dwell on that now. We need to defend the spire." The group reached a fortified chamber where Zelari guards hurried them inside. The walls here were thick, reinforced not only by the spire's natural crystal, but also by layers of advanced composites. Kirana turned, addressing a circle of anxious counselors and Terran aides. We are under attack by an unknown force. Our only chance is to unify our defenses. Commander Hayes, do you have enough resources to assist? Noah pressed a control on his communicator. Athena's Vigil has launched a defensive screen. Federation Marines are deploying to the planet's surface in drop pods as we speak. They'll secure perimeter points around the spire. But we need integrated coordination if we're to repel this assault effectively. Kirana's antennae flicked in agreement. Then it shall be so. Let this stand as proof to our people that Zelari and Terrans, united, can fight a common enemy. Moments later, the entire chamber buzzed with orchestrated chaos. Zelari generals directed their swarms to target the intruders' flight trajectories, while Terran Marines established defensive lines at ground level. Each soldier, whether human or insectoid, stared into the night sky, lit by the glow of weaponized energies. Outside, the city had turned into a war zone, with burning crystal spires and toppled towers. Streams of evacuation poured through the lower corridors as civilians scrambled for shelter. The attacking ships, sleek and elongated, phased in and out of visibility, as if skipping through space-time with unnatural ease. They rained violet-laced beams upon the city, blasting defensive turrets, civic structures, and anything in their path. Yet for all the attackers' formidable technology, Zelari flight squads and Terran fighter wings soon rallied. High above the spires, swirling dogfights erupted, beams of energy crossing in mesmerizing arcs. In a stroke of combined might, Zelari wings harassed the attackers at close range, diverting their aim, while Terran fighters unleashed high-yield ordnance. Several enemy vessels were struck, shimmering as they lost their cloaking fields, their hulls splitting in violent cascades of flame and debris. From her vantage, on a flickering holo display, Kirana watched the tide of battle with grim determination. Commander Hayes, we must hold them off. If they breach the spire's core, millions of Zelari could perish. Noah, jaw clenched, nodded. Then let's bring everything to bear. Tell your people to concentrate fire on any ship that drops its cloak, and our ground teams will mop up whatever tries to land. The minutes stretched like hours, each new explosion sending shockwaves through the spire. Gradually, however, the defenders gained a foothold. One by one, the intruders lost ground, battered by an unexpectedly cohesive response. Where once the human and Zelari militaries stood apart, now they fought side by side, driven by the imperative to protect Solana Prime. At last, as dawn's first light crested over the horizon, the remaining enemy ships withdrew, leaping back into cloak. The battered defenders eyed the skies, wary of a renewed assault. Only silence reigned. A battered hush descended over the city, revealing the extent of the damage. Entire spires reduced to smoking husks. Once luminous crystals cracked and dulled, thousands of injured and many more terrified survivors. Yet the planet still stood, defiant, refusing to yield. Noah exhaled, turning to Kirana. We held them off for now. The Queen, wings drooping in sorrow, surveyed the devastation on the holo display. At a terrible cost, Commander. But at least now, none can deny that we share a common enemy. In that moment of weary triumph, the seeds of alliance once planted in doubt began to blossom in the harsh light of shared sacrifice. Both species had seen the face of a ruthless adversary, and they had faced it together. The message rippled through every Zelari brood chamber and every Terran outpost alike. Cooperation was not just a diplomatic gesture, but a matter of survival. In the days that followed, the once shimmering skylines of Solana Prime bore the scars of the recent assault. Smoke still rose in columns from the ruined spires, while rescue crews, both Zelari and Terran, worked tirelessly to assist survivors and clear debris. Where suspicion had once reigned, now a bond forged by adversity began to take shape. Commander Noah Hayes and Queen Kirana emerged as pivotal figures. each praised by their respective peoples for coordinating a heroic defense. Within the Great Hall, which had sustained relatively minor damage, salvage teams assembled the remains of the downed enemy craft, twisted shards of exotic metal, charred fragments of advanced engines, and partial remains of cloaking devices were laid out for joint analysis. Experts from both sides worked in feverish unison, determined to glean every clue that might expose their attacker's identity. Late one evening, Dr. Adrienne Pierce presented her preliminary findings to Noah, Kirana, and a small gathering of scientists. She gestured to a fragmented hull piece suspended in a containment field. "We've confirmed that the materials are laced with the same exotic energy signature we detected in the sabotage devices and the assassination drones," she explained, tapping a digital interface that displayed complex waveforms. "It's unquestionably the same faction. We see advanced stealth technology, plus a unique blend of quantum entanglement that defies standard engineering. Whoever built these ships is centuries ahead in certain areas." A Zelari scientist clicked its mandibles, the translator conveying its alarmed tone. "We also found inscriptions in an unknown language etched into some of the internal components, not unlike the mysterious symbols described in our oldest myths about the silencers. If these are indeed the silencers of legend, their threat is far greater than we feared." Queen Kirana's wings trembled, a ripple of indignation crossing her features. "For centuries, we relegated those legends to old cautionary tales, warning us to be vigilant. Now we face the true horror of what might have given rise to them." She turned to Noah. "Commander, how can we fight an enemy that surpasses us so completely in technology? They nearly destroyed a planet in mere hours." Noah exchanged a glance with Dr. Pierce before replying. "Together, it's the only way. We gather our brightest minds, we consolidate our militaries, and we share resources to push the boundaries of our science. If they're trying to provoke war between us, we defy that manipulation by standing as one." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly, though the undercurrent of fear remained palpable. Kirana closed her eyes, drawing in a slow breath, her translator temporarily offline. Then, with resolute calm, she spoke in the Zelari tongue, prompting the translator orb to flicker back to life. "It shall be done. Let all Zelari know we have entered an alliance with the Terran Federation, for our survival depends upon it. Let this be a clarion call to every brood chamber, every spire stand united, or perish divided." The pronouncement sent a jolt of hope through the onlookers. For many Zelari, the concept of full alliance with humans had once been unthinkable, but now it felt like destiny. Noah bowed his head, acknowledging the magnitude of her statement. "We'll support you in every way we can. In return, I'll request from the Terran Council the formation of a joint task force dedicated to confronting the silencers, or whoever these attackers truly are." The hours that followed were consumed with urgent planning. Secure communication lines were established between Solana Prime and the Terran Federation core worlds, delivering a stark message of the threat that lurked at the galaxy's fringes. Overcoming centuries of mistrust would not be easy, but the events unfolding on Solana Prime served as a stark impetus. Delegations mobilized, fleets were put on standby, defensive grids were reconfigured. All the while, a sense of camaraderie began to grow between individual Zelari and Terrans. On street corners amid ruined spires, human medics treated wounded Zelari with gentle care, marveling at the intricacies of their insectoid physiology. In makeshift camps, Zelari warriors offered ration packs to displaced human marines, who found themselves far from their orbital ships. Each small act of kindness bolstered the fledgling alliance, forging a genuine bond that transcended the politics of the moment. One evening, after another day of ceaseless coordination, Noah found Queen Kirana perched on a damaged balcony overlooking the city. The violet twilight bathed her chitinous armor, highlighting the subtle green luminescence in her wings. She seemed lost in thought, gazing out at the broken spires that once stood proud. "Your Majesty," Noah said softly, approaching her side. The city will recover. It'll take time. But your people are resilient. She turned, regarding him with a thoughtful tilt of her head. I know, but the cost has been terrible. This assault, though brutal, has also made me realize something important, that we were not meant to stand alone against the vastness of the galaxy. Our fear of outsiders shielded us from small threats, but left us vulnerable to greater ones. You have shown me that bridging differences can be our salvation. Noah rested his forearms on the balcony rail, careful to avoid the jagged cracks in the crystal. In all my travels, I've learned that trust is the rarest commodity, yet it's also the most valuable. You gave us a chance when everyone else wanted to shut us out. I won't forget that. The city lights flickered below, illuminating the shape of rescue vehicles flying in cautious arcs. Kirana's antennae swayed gently, a sign of introspection. Commander Hayes, do you believe we can truly stop these silencers? If they are as powerful as the stories claim? Noah looked at the stars overhead. I believe it'll be the greatest challenge either of our civilizations has faced. But yes, I think we can. When people unite for a just cause, they can achieve feats that once seemed impossible. The silencers rely on fear and distrust to divide us. If we stand firm, they lose their greatest weapon. A soft hum escaped Kirana's mandibles, akin to a sigh. She extended a slender hand, resting it gently on Noah's shoulder in a gesture of camaraderie. Then let our alliance be more than an alliance of convenience. Let it be a bond forged in respect, perhaps in adversity. A new destiny awaits both our species. Neither spoke for a time, letting the air between them fill with unspoken resolve. Far above, the stars shimmered, silent witnesses to the forging of a new chapter in galactic history. On that broken balcony, amid the ruins of war, a partnership once marred by suspicion began to shine, its fragile brilliance reflecting the dream of an enduring peace. Word of the joint victory on Solana Prime spread swiftly across both human and Zelari networks. Though battered by the assault, the planet stood as the testament of unity, inspiring many in both civilizations to rethink the centuries of fear and misunderstanding. Diplomatic communiques flew back and forth at unprecedented speed, culminating in a decision by the Terran Council to dispatch a full ambassadorial contingent to Solana Prime, accompanied by a humanitarian and technological support fleet. The Zelari, for their part, convened a grand assembly of spire queens and brood leaders. With Queen Kirana at the helm, they ratified the planet's first formal interstellar alliance, proclaiming that the time for isolationism had ended. The illusions of safety hidden behind their crystalline walls had been shattered, replaced by a stark reality. Only by forging ties beyond their species could they withstand the silent menace that had so brutally intruded upon their domain. A triumphant atmosphere settled over the Great Hall once more, as Zelari and Terran dignitaries gathered to formalize their alliance. The walls, still lined with carved symbols of Zelari history, seemed to glow with renewed purpose, as if even the crystals themselves recognized the significance of the moment. Queen Kirana, adorned in ceremonial regalia that sparkled with the planet's native luminescence, addressed the assembled crowd. In the midst of devastation, we found truth, she began, her translator orb projecting her calm, measured tone. We discovered that strangers who came from distant stars could become allies, that differences could be harnessed as strengths, and so we choose unity over division, faith over fear. Applause, an odd fusion of Terran hand claps and Zelari wing clacks echoed through the hall. Then it was Noah's turn to speak, clad in his dress uniform, the Federation insignia gleaming on his chest. He took a steadying breath. When I first arrived on Solana Prime, I knew I had to tread carefully, for our peoples had little reason to trust each other. Now, I stand before you, humbled by the bravery and resilience of the Zelari. You have taught us the power of harmony with nature, with one another, and with unlikely partners like us. It is with pride and gratitude that I affirm this alliance on behalf of the Terran Federation. A new wave of applause filled the chamber. One by one, representatives from both sides stepped forward to place their signatures and seals on a glowing crystal tablet, etched with an interwoven emblem symbolizing the combined might of Zelari wings and Terran hands. Cameras captured the scene, transmitting it to Starship viewers and Zelari communities alike, ensuring that the message of unity would radiate far and wide. Once the formalities concluded, the Great Hall reverberated with an air of celebration. Musicians human and Zelari performed side by side, the melodic hum of crystal instruments blending with Terran strings in haunting, beautiful harmonies. Zelari youths, barely old enough to fly, danced with their shimmering wings, enthralling human onlookers. Even the battered city outside had begun to rebuild, as construction teams worked day and night to repair shattered spires and restore the planet's radiant skyline. In a quieter corner of the hall, Noah and Kirana conversed, their expressions relaxed for the first time in days. The translator orb hovered near them, though they found they needed fewer words to communicate a genuine respect, perhaps even a friendship. "So, Commander," Kirana said, her mandibles curved in what might be a wry smile, "do you still think the Zelari fear you?" Noah let out a soft chuckle. "Not half as much as we once feared the Zelari. It seems all it took was a planetary crisis, a series of sabotage attempts, and a brutal invasion from a shadowy enemy for our species to see eye to eye." Kirana tilted her head in agreement. "True unity seldom comes without sacrifice. But now that we have taken this step, I will see it through, no matter the obstacles." Her gaze flicked to the newly signed treaty. "Though our real trial lies ahead, the silencers are out there. They will not be deterred by one defeat." Noah's eyes hardened. "They won't. But they also didn't expect us to join forces so quickly. We've proven that we won't be so easily manipulated into fighting each other. The next time they strike, we'll be ready." A hush seemed to settle between them as they considered the enormity of what lay ahead. For all the hopes sparked by the new alliance, the galaxy teemed with unknowns. The silencers had revealed only a fraction of their power, and their motivations remained elusive. Yet a determined resolve bound these new allies together, a vow to stand against any threat that sought to divide them. In that moment, Kirana extended a slender hand, and Noah clasped it firmly, a symbolic gesture that drew warm smiles from nearby dignitaries. The significance of this quiet act resonated beyond the hall, beyond the battered spires, echoing across the star-strewn void. It was more than just a handshake between two leaders. It was the dawn of a partnership that transcended political convenience, forging a bond that might one day shape the fate of the galaxy itself. When dawn returned to Solana Prime, it found the planet humming with the purposeful energy of a civilization awakened to the wider galaxy. Reconstruction efforts accelerated, aided by Terran engineering teams who marveled at the wonders of Zelari crystal technology. Communication relays were erected, linking Solana Prime more firmly with the Federation's star lanes, establishing steady supply routes for trade and mutual defense. Queen Kirana spent much of her time touring the spires, listening to her people's concerns, reassuring them of the Alliance's benefits. Where once she might have been greeted with hidden resentments, she now found gratitude for the timely Terran intervention that had helped save countless Zelari lives. Still, the sorrow of lost loved ones remained. A somber undercurrent fueling a collective determination to ensure such a calamity would not happen again. Commander Noah Hayes, in turn, oversaw the integration of Federation forces with Zelari defense units. Joint drills took place in the skies, weaving Zelari flight swarms with Terran fighter formations, a dazzling aerial ballet that testified to evolving trust. The battered spire towers served as vantage points for onlookers, who watched in fascination as insectoid wings and human crafts maneuvered in synchronized precision. Between these duties, Noah and Kirana found moments for more personal connection, often in the Queen's private study or during strolls along half-repaired balconies overlooking the Spire City. With each exchange, they unraveled layers of culture and perspective, forging a rapport that inspired those around them. Rumors circulated among humans and Zelari alike, whispering that perhaps this alliance was more than political convenience, hinting at a bond that transcended the boundaries of species. You've become somewhat of a legend among the younger Zelari, Kirana teased one evening, as they gazed upon the half-restored skyline. They're calling you the Crystal Guardian, the human who shielded the queen from an assassination attempt. Noah couldn't help but laugh, though he felt a twinge of humility. That's quite a title. But you know, without your people's quick response, I wouldn't be standing here. He paused, reflecting on how destiny had led him to this moment. We're tied together by circumstance, but also by choice. We could have both walked away, letting ignorance and fear define us. I'm glad we didn't. Kirana inclined her head. So am I. In the not-so-distant orbit above, the Athena's vigil circulated with a protective vigilance, scanning the system for any further signs of silencer activity. Fleets of Terran and Zelari ships patrolled the approach routes, prepared to repel invaders. A new phase of galactic history was being shaped on this once isolated world. A turning point that might determine the future of more than just two species. Among the glowing crystals of Solana Prime, the seeds of hope glimmered more brightly than ever, nurtured by the compassion of those who refused to let ancient suspicions dictate their fate. The Zelari found their unwavering hearts warmed by Terran optimism, and the humans drew strength from the Zelari's deep-rooted harmony with their planet. They had suffered a brutal attack, but they had not broken. Instead, they emerged united, keenly aware that their alliance was an essential shield against the cosmic shadows that hovered just beyond the next star. On the day of the Grand Alliance celebration, sunlight gleamed across the rebuilt sections of Solana Prime's main spire. Though many scars remained, enough restoration had been completed to reclaim the spire's enduring majesty. Zelari banners, woven from shimmering crystal threads, adorned balconies and arches. Terran flags, emblazoned with the Federation emblem, fluttered side by side with these alien tapestries, symbolizing a unity once thought impossible. The Great Hall was alive with music and conversation, as dignitaries from both civilizations exchanged stories and gifts. Tables laden with delicacies, some drawn from the Zelari's indigenous flora, others shipped in from Earth, enticed curious palates. Joyful laughter echoed through the corridors, a testament to the profound shift that had overtaken the planet since the dark days of invasion. Commander Noah Hayes stood near an intricate fountain, carved from a single massive crystal that refracted water into endless rainbow arcs. He wore a more relaxed uniform, a subtle nod to the celebratory mood. Across the hall, Queen Kirana mingled with Terran Council members, her wings glistening with carefully polished segments. She spotted Noah and offered a nod, her eyes shining with quiet contentment. Moments later, she drifted away from the council members and joined him by the fountain. It feels like a dream, does it not? She asked, her translator orb weaving her hushed voice into a gentle melody. So much destruction, yet here we stand, celebrating a bond that seems to grow stronger with each passing day. Noah smiled. I've served in plenty of border skirmishes, seen lots of half-baked treaties, but I've never seen such genuine warmth between two species before. There's something special here, something worth protecting. Kirana dipped a clawed fingertip into the fountain's water, watching droplets catch the shimmering light. I once feared humans might bring only conquest to Solana Prime. Instead, you helped save my world. For that, I will always be grateful. He inclined his head in acknowledgement. We're equally indebted to you, Your Majesty. Without your openness and your people's bravery, we would have never learned the true nature of the threat we face. We might have been blindsided by the silencers, left bickering among ourselves. A thoughtful pause followed, punctuated by the distant melody of Zelari instruments. Then Kirana stepped closer, resting her hand lightly on his forearm. Noah, you have given me reason to believe in the power of unity, not merely as a political tool, but as a genuine bridge between hearts. I hope you understand how much this means to my people, and to me personally. Noah met her gaze, feeling the weight of her words as well as an undeniable warmth in his own heart. "Kirana," he said softly, forgoing her title in a moment of sincerity. "This alliance is more than a duty for me as well. It's become a part of who I am. Your people have shown me a sense of wonder I never expected to experience at this stage in my career." Her mandibles shifted in what might have been a shy smile. "And you have shown me that bravery can wear many faces. I will never forget that moment on the plateau when you shielded me from harm. It seems so long ago now, yet it remains in my thoughts every day." They lingered in companionable silence, the fountain's gentle splashing lulling them into a rare moment of peace. Far from the tension of negotiations and the horrors of war, they stood as two souls who had discovered something precious in each other's presence, a bond that transcended species, spanning an emotional bridge that even they struggled to define. Suddenly, the jubilant notes of a ceremony's announcement rang out, signifying the day's keynote address. Kirana and Noah parted with a mutual nod, each taking their place on a raised dais. Once the crowd settled, Kirana began to speak. Her translator orb broadcast her voice throughout the hall and into communications channels across the planet. "My fellow Zelari, esteemed Terran guests, and watchers across the galaxy," she said, her tone regal yet warm. "Today we gather not to dwell on the pains of our past, but to celebrate the hope of our future. Our alliance stands firm, a living testament that trust can grow even in the most unlikely soil. Though threats may loom beyond our sight, we face them not as solitary worlds, but as friends and partners." She turned to Noah, offering him the chance to speak. Stepping to the podium, he surveyed the sea of compound eyes, interspersed with human faces, each reflecting anticipation and solidarity. He cleared his throat, though his voice remained steady and sincere. "In my time on Solana Prime, I've witnessed acts of courage and kindness that humbly remind me of the best virtues of humanity, and now, of the Zelari. I see a resilient planet recovering from devastation, yet unbowed. I see a proud people who, in choosing cooperation over fear, have taught us all a valuable lesson about the future we can create together. May this be the first page in a new chapter of interstellar unity, a beacon for other species who might also doubt the possibilities of cooperation." The crowd erupted in applause and triumphant wing clacks, a rousing ovation that spoke volumes about the changes that had swept through Solana Prime. The music resumed, the festivities continued, and for a moment, it seemed as though no obstacle was insurmountable. At the close of the celebration, as the twin suns of Solana Prime dipped below the horizon, their final rays refracted off the crystal spires, setting the city aglow in a kaleidoscope of color. Noah and Kirana, standing on a high terrace, took in the view. Their worlds and indeed, their lives had changed irrevocably. But as they watched the crystals shimmer like celestial jewels, they felt hope rising in their hearts, a conviction that whatever darkness awaited them beyond the stars, it would pale against the light of what they had built here. And so the story reached its end, or rather, the beginning of a grander saga. With Solana Prime rebuilt and the Zelari no longer bound by fear, a new era dawned. Queen Kirana, once skeptical of humanity, now stood side by side with Commander Noah Hayes, forging a unified front that even the most cunning of enemies would find difficult to break, in triumph over sabotage, assassinations, and invasions. These unlikely allies discovered a bond that transcended politics, cultures, and every barrier once deemed unassailable. They found, in each other, the living proof that in a galaxy filled with shadows, shared hope can burn brighter than any star, and that, in the end, is a happy horizon worth celebrating for all time.